going to start by removing this panel here, this cover. The best way to do that is actually by opening the glove box, and then you get a little plastic trim tool in here and just pop it off like this. There we go. It's got some clips. Slide it to the side and remove it. Now we can access the bolts on the side here. You'll see a T25 Torx screw. Remove that. Set it aside. 2 more T25 screws at the top here. Remove both of those as well. Oops, there you go. Those are both out. 2 8mm bolts on the bottom underneath the glove box. Take those out. There's one. And if you go to the left, you'll see another one. Take that one out as well. Okay, there it is. Okay, so underneath the glove box, if you look really deep in there, behind this piece here, you'll see 2 more Torx screws. There's one right there. Let's take that one out. And towards the driver's side, there's another one. Okay, there's the second one. Now go ahead and open up your glove box. Pull out on this piece here. Pull this down. There's some push clips. Pull the glove box straight out. The first thing I want to do before I start anything else is to disconnect the battery, which is located in the engine compartment underneath this cover. And you'll see why I'm doing this later on. With a 10mm, there's a nut on the negative side right there. Loosen that up, just a few turns. And then you can pull the connector or the terminal. There it is, and make sure that it doesn't make connection with the battery, so I like to set it aside right in here. So this is the body control module as well as the main fuse box for inside the car, and this is why we disconnected the battery. This actually has to get removed and set aside, so we have to disconnect all these electrical connectors in order to gain access to the blower motor. So just disconnect everything here. All of these can only go into one spot, so if you're worried about them getting mixed up, well, don't worry, because they only fit one slot here. Might need a little pocket screwdriver to help you with this, or just do it with your fingernail. Move all these aside. Okay. Move all this wiring aside and out of your way. To disconnect this big connector, lift the top of it, and then it should slide out. Yep. There we go. Set that aside. Let's pull this down so it can be out of our way. There we go. Move this to the side. Gonna pop this one out too. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it allows you to push this harness away from where you're working. Okay. And now we go underneath, take these 2 tabs, push them down, pull this out, and this whole thing should slide right out of your way. So now I'm going to remove this bracket here with 3 13mm nuts. Remove 3 of them. There's 1. 2 on the bottom. Okay, take those off. Remove this whole bracket. There's still wiring attached to it, so be careful, but at least now you can get it out of your way a little bit. So now looking at this plastic cage here by the blower motor is behind all of this. There is a screw right there, another T25 screw that we need to remove. Before I do that though, I just want to unplug this connection here for this solenoid or this actuator, and I'll show you in a second where the tab is to unlock it. So it's on the bottom side right here, and what I did is I just pushed it up with my finger, pulled it out. So unplug that, and then again with a T25, that should be unscrewed. That screw comes right out. So now there's another screw like the one that we just pulled out all the way back here, and then another one up top. I'm gonna go for this lower one first. You can't see it. I can't see it. It's really hard to get to, and basically you have to kind of just feel for it. And once you do feel for it and find it, remove it. So I decided to fully remove this piece here, the bracket, because it might give me a little bit more access to potentially see that lower screw, which is very hidden in there. So all I have to do at this point is just disconnect all this wiring off of it, so I can push it aside, or remove it, I guess. Okay, so that's out of the way now. Now I can move all this wiring away. And now maybe I can get a better view in there. Once you manage to get onto that screw, go ahead and fully remove it. Okay, sounds like it's out of there. Of course, probably stayed in there, so I'll try to fish it out with my magnet. Oh, there it is. All right, now one more, which is kind of the same thing except up above. Okay, so here's a better view of this one above. Stick your long extension with your T20 in there and try your best to get it onto that bolt or screw, I guess. There we go. That's on it. Remove it. Okay, looks like this one's coming out with my socket. That's okay. There it is. Now we can reach in here, pull this assembly right out, make sure it clears the carpet, or insulation, I guess. It's not really carpet. Just like this. Okay, there it is. Set this aside, and behind this is going to be the blower motor. Now, going from the driver's side, if you follow the brake pedal up and then look towards the center console, so towards the center of the car, you'll see the blower motor, the back of it, and then this connector right there. This is the main power supply to the blower motor. Disconnect that and set it aside. Okay, so what you have to do is get a pry bar or screwdriver in here. Pry this out. Once you pry this out and you get behind it, there's that tab right there. Well, looks like mine broke off, but you have to press it in. And now you rotate this blower motor 45 degrees clockwise, and that should unlock it. I'm going to try to do it from the passenger side. Now at this point, because I broke the locking clip on the other side, I can just come in here to the passenger side and unlodge it or twist it and remove it. If your clip did not break, you'll have to have someone on the passenger side and you on the driver's side holding that clip, or vice versa. Either way, my point is that now I can reach in here, and what you have to do is twist it 45 degrees clockwise, so wedge your fingers into the grooves here. There we go. Twist it, and it should slide right out. And there it is. There's the blower motor. So your new blower motor should say top at the top of it, and that's important because you can easily put this in the wrong way. As you can see, it's not like it has screws that need to line up. It's just these clips that you can't see in there. So make sure you put the mark at the top at the actual top so that you can then twist it and lock it in. Otherwise it won't lock in, and then you're gonna fight it and potentially break it. So line this up, let's put it in. Oh, that's it. That just locked in. Make sure it's twisted and it's not gonna come back out. That's perfect. Now back on the driver's side, let's reconnect the blower motor. Make sure that connector clips in. And right up there is where the locking tab is. Make sure that that is clipped into place where it needs to be, which it is, so that's perfect. Let's go back to the passenger side and finish putting everything back together. Let's put the recirculation door with the actuator back in. Slide it into place. It's kind of a tight fit, but if you find the right angle, it should slide right through. There we go. Feels like it's gonna line up soon. Oh, there we go. Let's finish pushing it into place. You want to make sure that it actually slides onto that blower motor, and over there it presses onto that hole for the air inlet. That feels like it's pretty much where it needs to be, and it also looks like it's where it needs to be. So, actually, it's got to twist a little like that. Okay, so I can see the lower bolt hole. That's basically the only one I can see right now. So I'm going to start with that one. Once that screw is started in, then I can use that as a pivot point and move this whole assembly up or down, pivoting on this bolt to line up the other two. So let's start this lower one first. And that's because it's the easiest one to see and to start. And then I can use this as a pivot point for this whole assembly to start the other three, or the other two in. I'm using a piece of tissue on the end of my socket here. That makes the screw stay on the socket better if your socket isn't magnetic. Take that tissue out of there. I don't want to snug it up completely at this point, but the reason I want to get it close is so that I know it's properly engaged on the threads. Okay, that's good for now. I'll come back and tighten it later. Now let's start in the other two. Next I'm going to go for the top one. There it is. Okay. Screw just fell right into place. It's really hard to see. Now since two of the three screws are started, I'm going to start tightening them up because automatically the third one's going to line up. And then I don't have to worry about this top one anymore. So that's tight. Of course, they're all screwing into plastic, so don't over tighten them. And now for the last one, you have to aim for right where this foam is and where it meets the insulation. Aim straight back from there, and if you feel around, you should be able to feel the bolt want to drop into its mounting hole. Okay, so now that's in. Let's tighten it up. Okay, that's snug. So at the top right here, you have this actuator that has to get plugged in again. Perfect. Now let's get this bracket back in. It has 3 mounting points with the 3 nuts. Make sure you line those up. Then we'll bolt this up, and only then can the computer go back in. So sneak this up in here, press it onto the studs, just like that. Make sure it kind of snaps into place. I'm going to put the nuts on, but before I fully tighten it, while it still has a little bit of movement, I'm going to reattach the wiring harness, because if you remember, I had to pull it off of a couple retainers just to get more slack out of it. But now that the nuts are on, I know it's not going to fall back off. So let's grab the wire and route it the way it needed to be. So there was one retainer up here. And then if you follow it along, these 2 connectors were hanging down like this. Follow it along here, that one went behind it, and then there's another retainer that clipped in right here. Another retainer that clipped in right here, and that stayed down there. And I believe, and one last, hard to see, but one last retainer over here for this, the main part of this harness. Clip that back in. All right, so now let's tighten up those 3 nuts. One, 2, and last one up top here. Now grab this computer, make sure it's facing the right way, of course, you don't want it upside down, and push all this wiring aside. And the way to put it in is actually, it has these 2 tabs up top that need to slide in first, and then you line up the bottom, which clips it in. So bring it up, push the wires out of your way, make sure it doesn't get pinched anywhere. Slide it up. Once it's into position at the top, you'll see these 2 line up. Press it on, give it a little tug to make sure it's clipped in, and that's perfect. Now all we have to do is just plug in everything. Okay, so I'm just going to start with whatever is right here in front of me. The connectors, like I said before, only go on one way, or they only fit one mounting location. So that one went in there, lock it down. This one went in here. This one locked prematurely. Okay. Slide it in, lock it down, and we'll just follow it along. Looks like I forgot to route these this way. That's okay. It's not too late. Just sneak them in behind. And then I guess I did have one more clip to connect here to secure, Okay, there we go. Secure that. And then these 2 connectors went, oops, I locked this one. This connector went over here. And then this bigger one went over there. There we go. Next we have this one over here. And down below, there are a few here. Last one. Okay, so that looks like it's all the connectors that were here. Make sure they're all secure. Looks like they are, so let's continue. All right, let's slide the glove box in. Make sure it lines up everywhere. We had one mounting screw on the side here. Okay, and then if you open it up, there were 2 up top. And if you followed along, another one right over here. Okay, and 2 underneath. There's one of them right here. Just gonna go ahead and snug it up while I'm on it. Okay, move to the other side. Start this one in as well. And snug it up. Okay, that's tight. Now you have this padding here that's supposed to go underneath. Mine doesn't actually stay on, so I won't be putting it on, but it just goes down here to hide everything. But mine's missing the clips that actually hold it on. And then one last piece is the cover on the side here. You have to slide this in at the same time as lining up the push clips. Oh, that's it. That just fell right in. If your door seal came off, go ahead and put it back. There you go. All right, now let's reconnect the negative battery terminal, bring it over to where it belongs, and make sure the wire sits down in its place. And let's snug up this little 10mm nut. That's what secures the terminal onto the battery post. Make it nice and snug, and don't forget to put the cover on. That way everything stays nice and protected. Line it up, press it down. Perfect.